So a man is taking his young son to the mountains, and they're walking along, and the son, he trips and he falls and he hurts his leg and he goes, "Ow!" And the mountain says back, "Ow!" And the little boy goes, "Who are you?" And the mountain goes, "Who are you?" And then the little boy goes, "You are a coward." And the mountain says, "You are a coward." So by this time his dad walks up and he goes, "Son, let me show you this." And so he says, "I am beautiful." And the mountain says, "I am beautiful." And then he says, "I am awesome." I am awesome. Got it. "I am great." I am great. And then he would say, "Son, most people call that an echo." They call it an echo, but in real truth, that is life. That life brings you back and echoes and reflects who you are. And you will find that, son, for the rest of your life, that you will always be getting in life what you bring. Charles Fillmore would say very clearly, words are the seeds that go into the invisible substance, and they bring back to us the idea behind the intention. They bring back to us the energy behind the words that are spoken. And for me, the key would be the word invisible. I remember many times using these words with great intentions of what I wanted to see in my life. I remember many times speaking prayers and needing to practice to get into the feeling of it because it felt so foreign to me what I hadn't seen yet. Is that true for any of you? Do you resonate with what I'm talking about? So the word is invisible. The word is the ability to trust the invisible, that you continue to call in that which you are seeking, while at the same time you may not be able to see it. It's that invisibility that we believe in that has brought someone like myself from addiction to soon be 30 years of sobriety. It's that kind of invisible believing, thank you, in something, believing in yourself that can bring you to a place of an ailment, to a place of beginning anew, to being alone and lonely, to a place of the most invigorating relationship that you can bring into your life, allow to come into your life. The idea of moving anyone from lack and limitation to a place of possibility thinking and becoming a dynamic manifester. Yes? And so there's that place. That place. As you are envisioning and using words about our world, may you think about it is our moral responsibility to focus on a world of peace and a world of connection. At the convention this week, Sharif Abdullah, who represents the hero of our times as far as connection with people making a difference, he said very clearly, let's stop saying that what we talk about is political or social justice or doing activism. Let's talk about it from a place of a moral conviction that we are to take a stand for our world that we see with freedom and peace.
So Ernest Holmes, the founder of the science of mind teaching we call religious science, was my teacher. He was my spiritual father, just as my earthly father is my earthly father. And Ernest Holmes taught from a place of oneness. He studied transcendentalism. He studied, some of his favorite teachers were transcendentalists, such as Emerson and Thoreau. And he really came from a place of a unified field of consciousness. And in his terminology, he used the concept of God the Father works in two ways, love and law. He says, love points the way. Put your hand on your heart. This points the way. Now put your finger up on your temple. Law makes it possible. Love points the way. Law makes it possible. So from a place of intentionality, we must understand that we are always becoming cause for only effect. You come from that place of I am one with the Father, oneness, or someplace from a place of separation. You know, Ernest Holmes, one of his greatest prototypes, spiritual prototypes, was the teacher Jesus. I shared some of this last week. The teacher Jesus referred to God as the Father because people understood the concept of Father as a loving figure. But Holmes also taught the same thing that Jesus taught. Jesus, basically, you could take the entire teachings of Jesus and boil it down to two concepts. My Father and I are one, or the kingdom of God is within, and it is done unto you as you believe. Not as you think, but as you believe. Here to here to here. And we must understand that as I said, we're always becoming cause and effect, and the universe can't take a joke. I got a great quote for you. Ernest Holmes had a sense of humor. And I don't know if he was writing from a place of intentional humor or he was just so deeply in the thought of oneness that his words came together in a way that made me chuckle. He's talking about the law, the universal law of cause and effect, and how it works. He says, it is around us in its original state, ready, willing to take form through the impulse of our creative belief. He didn't say thoughts, he said belief. It works for us by working through us. The law we did not create. This law we cannot change. We can use it correctly only as we understand it and use it according to its nature. Here it comes. Hence it follows that if we believe it will not work, it really works by appearing not to work. When we believe that it cannot work, then it, according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does, only it does according to our belief that it will not. What do you believe to be the truth for yourself? Realize you are the father of your own creation, your own experience. What thoughts, beliefs from your father that move into your heart that you take out of this room today that become your experience? That to me is the higher meaning of Father's Day. My dad, my role model, he passed away at 95 years old. He studied science and line class. We took ministerial training together. What does that tell you? The consciousness in which I was imbued. My daughter was born literally 2 months after I started my church in Simi Valley in 1985. She's marinated in this teaching. She's now 32 years old, and that lineage of I and the Father are one is continuing to move through me, through her, and into the work she does today as a healer. She's an acupuncturist and a holistic healer. So, understand, this trickle-down effect, I and the Father are one. You can take that personally, because it's a spiritual truth about you.
There's a new documentary. I strongly advise you to find it and to watch it. It's by Carl Reiner. The title is, If Your Name Is Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast. It's so unity. It's so truth, because what Carl Reiner did was he invited people like Dick Van Dyke, Betty White, a lot of names I wasn't familiar with, and he interviewed all of these people. What's your magic? What's your secret? One of those was a woman that at 67 was depressed and lonely and down, and her daughter came along and said, Mom, it's time to get you out of the house. It's time for you to move forward in your life. And she became a runner. At 100 years old, she still participates in marathons. Right? Another pianist playing at Central Park in New York at 97 years old. Life is just beginning beyond those boundaries of what we know with no limitation, to change our paradigm of what we believe. Charles Fillmore said, if you have any illness, there is a mental treatment that you can do to change it. Would you like to know what that is? Yeah. Maybe if you ask me, I might. What is it? Thank you. Now that you asked, I will tell you. The mental treatment that you do to either for maintenance of your life, for energy of your life, or to heal something that needs to be revealed. He said, as you take 30 minutes before you go to sleep every night, and you forgive everything and everyone. And whatever comes up, whatever comes into your awareness, don't overanalyze it. If a name comes up, if an experience comes up, you ask for the forgiveness of that. For the Father that is forever giving to us, it is essential that we allow the opportunity for giving unto ourselves. So you get the catch of the language there? Yes. I know you're a quick learner. I got that.
Holmes taught that, and this actually comes from the Course in Miracles too, that when we reach a point where we do not judge, there will be no need for forgiveness. Because it is only judgment that separates us from the awareness of God's presence. So the question is, how can we approach life on a daily basis? How can we, and by life I mean everything we do in life, the people that we're with, what we do for work, how we interact with nature, everything about it. What we can do, if we're conscious, and this is what Holmes taught, we can approach life with reverence. Reverence. That means we see at the center and circumference, beyond the shell of the things that we appear to be in front of us. We see the presence of only God. And when we can treat and see and act from a place of reverence, humility arises naturally for us. Humility comes from the root word humus, which is ground. It means being close to the earth, being one with nature. Take a deep breath. How does it feel to be in your body, to be conscious of it? Now bring reverence into it. Breathe in and say, God is. And on the out-breath, I am. You know, it is said that Ernest Holmes dined on his dining room table with a vase at the center of the table filled with weeds. Not roses, but weeds. He did this as a reminder to himself, there's no place God is not. And if the weeds in our lives, is there any less presence of God or intelligence or life in a weed than there is a rose? Shape it like this? No. But how we label some things weeds in our lives and other things roses. Stop judging. Stop judging. God is.
I often wear my father's wedding band. You know, whether you're wearing something that is a material that belonged to your father, or you're wearing something from your physiological being that belonged to your father, or you are wearing emotions that belong to your father, sometimes addressed and sometimes undone. It's very important to recognize the power of that archetype in our lives. For when we do, and when we make peace with what it was supposed to be, the joy is the gifts of all of that come afterwards. It's a very powerful thing. I've told this story before, that years ago when the time would change, I would call my dad and I would say, you know, I'm going to be preaching in the morning, and is it spring forward or fall back? Which one is it? Which do I do? And so he would go on to tell me. And so one particular year I said, okay, what is it? Is it spring forward? I mean, this is before you could Google everything, including where's my partner today, you know. This is long before you could Google and get everything right there. And so I call, I know some of you got that, you can watch it later. So anyway, he said to me, he said, you know, you've been doing this every year. He said, you call me, you ask me, and I tell you, and then you say, are you sure? Are you sure? what I have to say, then call somebody else. And he had no idea at the time that that would become such a lesson in my life, because I realized that in my life I had done that so many times. I had asked God a question, and then I did not believe or want to believe the answer.
Yes.
I avoided that, oh, this is it. Oh, no, I want it to be this. Oh, no. Rather than, I hear you, that's what I'll do. I'm very grateful for that lesson, because the answer is always given. The question is, do we believe it, and do we demand an answer of clarification? Charles Fillmore would say clearly that within this invisible substance, when we do state words and pray into the law of our own understanding, it is crucial that we have this believability, while at the same time we demand with great expectation where we want to be in our lives. We demand it. All of you are masters within your own being. Are you demanding that? Are you asking for that? That's the question. And now we wait for your answer.
Interesting, Ernest Holmes said the same thing. He said, make your demand upon the universe. Make your demand upon the universe. He was a great teacher of, as I said, love and law. My dad was too. My dad was very loving. He gave you freedom to, enough rope, as they say, to hang yourself, you know. Which I did. Anybody need to relate to that one? But he taught me that I must be accountable for my actions. In other words, he gave me a lot of room to make choices on my own. This is one of the things that made me, I think, such a wonderful human being. He gave me the space and room to discover myself. But he also held me accountable for the choices I made. This is what Ernest Holmes talks about when he talks about consciousness. Holmes, the science mind doesn't teach you what to think. It teaches you how to think. Consciousness. I said this last week at the beginning of my talk to you. I said, my consciousness goes before me to announce my coming. My consciousness determines my experience. What is your consciousness? Your consciousness is the sum total of everything you ever believed to be the truth about yourself, brought to this moment in time. So when we pray, according to the science mind teaching, it's referred to as spiritual mind treatment. When we pray, we don't pray asking for anything. As Temple said, we make our demand. In our prayer, consciousness does not do anything out there. When we pray, and by means of a spiritual mind treatment, what we're doing is changing our consciousness about something. As within, so without. As above, so below. As you believe, as you think, so it is. Take a deep breath. Imagine the power and the authority that the Father has vested in you. Take that home with you today. Live in the awareness of it. God is, I am.
Want to say a complete thought?
I just think that every one of us in this room today has a different awareness about what Father's Day may mean to you. For some of us, a good experience. For some of us, it may not be a good experience. But the reality is that the principle of fatherhood, that which the great teacher Jesus taught, that which every great teacher ever taught, is that we become cause to our own effect. You're the father of your own thoughts, which create your experience. So celebrate your ability today to stand in the truth of your own creative process. As you think, as you believe, so it is. That's fathering your own life.
Thank you.